This podcast is intended for mature audiences and is not considered appropriate for enjoyment in the workplace.
You can stop the search for something intellectual and fulfilling. You've tuned into the diary of a bald man, and there is no going back. Let the moaning, groaning, and bitching begin in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Did you know? Most people scrolling on their phone are looking for connection while telling themselves there's nothing to do and nobody to do it with. Meanwhile, there's a group 10 miles from your house meeting tonight, wondering why nobody new shows up. You don't need more time, you don't need more money, you might just need to hit join and walk through the door.
Hey everybody, this is Alan Woffard, and you're listening to the Diary of a Bald Man. So for all of our listeners, subscribers, and people that follow, just wanted to thank you and let you know that we've had great success with Season 4. So when we started with the Burnout Starts with Yes, then led into Before the Silence, and then the lie we tell ourselves about getting old, mindset, and aging, we have really increased the number of not just downloads, but shares. So according to the Spotify and other statistics, these past 3 shows have just catapulted our Season 4. So that's a great start, and into the week and getting that data and information and some of the feedback on the shows about, people not just my age, but in the younger 20s, 30s, and 40s going, this gave me something to think about. I've got better opportunities to plan. I'm reducing the stress and the environment by taking moments to pause and assess whether I want to say yes to a request or to, a proposal. And it's just finding ourselves, within communication and reaching out and asking questions and discussing things with others. And that's what's great. That's what shows should be about, is to give you not just historical reference about one another like all podcasts do, but to show you what else is out there and what you might be successful in achieving on your own side. So great things. Additionally, as I may have said in the previous shows, just started on a new greenfield site here in East Tennessee. And yes, I'm still working with Evans General Contractors. And in that, 2 great events have happened. So not only have we got the greenfield site building up, but my friend and direct boss, you may remember him from the interview Resign, Wine, or Shine. Chad Smith, the director of safety, is now the vice president of corporate safety. So congratulations, Chad. Outstanding, brother. Glad to see that. Glad to have the opportunity to work with you when you were just a lowly, hardworking director, looking out for us in the field, taking care of things, and helping us to make it a success. So, in talking about success, we think about things with work, but let's think about our personal stuff too. The second one goes out to Zach with Wiggle Butts. Now, what this may not mean much to you. It does to me. I'm trying to type something in at the same time. We've been with our dogs for many years. And one of the issues is trying to find groomers or, care specialists for the animals. We've got a poodle, we've got a golden doodle, we have a cat left, and it's trying to find somebody that can work with these animals, do so in such a way where you're really happy. So Zach with Wiggle Butts made us very happy. Let me tell you, we've had difficulties in maintaining dogs with curly hair. You try to brush them out, you try to maintain them, and it was not successful, even with all the experience we have. So we went to Zach with Wiggle Butts in Kodak, Tennessee. Yeah, it's here in East Tennessee. And to be more specific, Wiggle Butts Spa is at 250 West Mountain Road in Kodak. So if you're heading to Sevierville, Gatlinburg, connect with Zach, get with Wiggle Butts on Facebook, or wigglebuttSpa.com. Reach out and ask. I'm telling you, the amazing work that Zach has done, our dogs have never looked or felt so good as they do now. But you got to move. The man fills up fast. His calendar gets flooded with other people in the area wanting to groom their dogs and give them that spa treatment. And Zach did that for us. So Wigglebutts does not sponsor or support the Diary of a Bald Man, but we're supporting him for the amazing work he did in helping our fur babies live their best life. And that's what we're talking about in today's show. Let's live our best life. Everything that we succumb to or we are affected by are in our environment. And so what we're looking to do with this show as an add-on to the previous three, the burnout starts with yes, before the silence, the lies we tell ourselves, is to reflect on forward movement, right? So every show during this fourth season is to help us grow, not to write in a diary, not to reflect, but to look forward, to think about where our next movement's going to take us. And the way this came about was the other day I was driving to work. Remember, right now I'm working in East Tennessee near Jonesboro, Johnson City area. It's about an hour and a half. But I was listening to one of my oldest favorite groups from the 90s, The Offspring. So in 2024, they released the album Supercharged, and in there was a song called You Can't Get There From Here. And that made me think about the podcast I was working on, which is today's episode. And it reflected on, people I see in the safety groups, LinkedIn, that are saying, hey, I want to move in this direction, like Chad did from, just the director of safety, now to vice president of corporate safety. And the fact is, he didn't just sit there and wait for it to come. He made the changes, made the mindset, and engaged himself internally and externally with the people around him. Because as he moves up, like we do in the military, whoever's going to follow, we want to make sure that they maintain that level of professionalism, maintain that professional decorum, maintain that desire to grow, to develop a culture, and to keep the brass and our roots that put us in place in the first place. So a lot going on. And when we get back, we'll get into the heart of the show. But while you're thinking about it, and when you have a moment later, look up The Offspring, the recording Supercharged, and listen to the song You Can't Get There From Here. And we'll be back in just a moment.
Did you know nearly half of adults over 65 actually improve physically or mentally over time? And the biggest factor? Mindset. Your brain can rewire itself at any age, meaning you're never truly stuck, just inactive in a direction. And people with a growth mindset don't just feel better, they show measurable improvements in memory and learning, even later in life. So the question isn't, can you still change? It's, have you decided not to?
Okay, everybody, welcome back to the show. Again, you're listening to Alan Woffard on The Diary of a Bald Man. So today's show, again, being based off of one of my favorite groups, The Offspring, You Can't Get There From Here. That prompted me to title this one because of some of the follow-up questions and, some of the responses to the previous shows. You can't get there standing here. So again, you can't complain about where you are, right? Where everybody goes to where they're supposed to be, when they're supposed to be there. But you can't complain about where you are while refusing to move your feet. Not physically, not mentally, and definitely not socially. And the truth is, a lot of us in our age range aren't stuck. We're parked, the brakes are set, and the engine is locked into idle. And it's usually around the mindset. The mindset literally changes how you are. In a 12-year study of 11,000 plus adults over 55, they found that 45% actually improve physically or cognitively over time. If you go to health.com, you can read the full study. And the number one predicator? Their mindset about aging. The difference was between decline and improvement, wasn't age. It was in the attitude. So your brain still rewires because you're not done. The brain retains neuroplasticity, the ability to adapt and to learn throughout life. And you can study more of that through the Mayo Clinic Press. Just look up neuroplasticity. Even in older adults, the brain can retain, retrain, rewire, and build new skills. Think about that. You retire from one thing, but if you're looking forward saying, hey, I still have vitality, I still have muscle, I still have flexibility, I still have the, desire to move forward. You got to think about this. And if you're young as well, you're not too old, you're just undertrained in the direction you want to go. So for you younger ones listening, think about it. Every time you move into that next decade of your life, the 30s to the 40s to the 50s, the 50s to the 60s, think about where you want to go next and prepare your mind and your body to get there. Because remember, our number one hindrance is that space between our ears. So when we're looking at this, growth mindset equals measurable cognitive gains. Studies show that older adults with a growth mindset have better cognitive improvements than those who didn't. Now, this study was done by the Johns Hopkins University. And what they basically are saying is if you believe you could still grow emotionally, physically, mentally, your brain actually follows those orders. So you have to think along those lines where we were talking about in the previous podcast, saying yes starts burnout, the silence conversations, and the lies we tell ourselves about getting older. It's everything that's in our mind. We say yes to be more adaptable in the workplace. We say yes because we want to seem like we have the physical abilities and that we're a team player. These start the downward trends in some cases in some people. And then when we get into before the silence of conversations, our fears about dying, our fears about end of life, our fears about leaving our families behind and in a bind, sets a mental state where we're going to withhold and keep back some of the problems or issues that we face out of fear. So again, it's your mindset. So if you change it from fear to optimism, to opportunity, to, hey, I can do this, I'm still viable, then that's kicking out half of the problem, right? Because you have to accept the fact you can. Studies have shown in previous medical, I want to say post-surgical events, people that had, back injuries, head injuries, things like that, were told, hey, you may have limited mobility. You may have limited lifestyle. And so when they put that in there, they're training them, hey, you're going to have limited everything. And there's nothing you can do because of the traumatic experience you put your body through. So in your head, if you say, fuck that, that does not necessarily mean that you will be able to. It does not necessarily mean you'll be able to walk. But in my personal reflection, when I was told that I had peripheral arterial disease, plus deep vein thrombosis, the potential of a blood clot getting loose and killing me, potential for below-the-knee amputation, that did put me down a spiral trend because I was like, fuck, I'm so young. I still have these abilities. And without recognizing or realizing, when I was telling myself that, I went full steam into my physical therapy. I went full steam into my supplements and doing research about, what items are good for my cardiovascular, my heart rate, getting my veins rebuilt, getting those collateral vessels and veins and capillaries going. And it was strain and struggle. You're going to have to remember, sometimes the hardest and most difficult and impossible routes are the best ones. Those would be the most honest. So when we look at other things outside of physical conditions that we say, hey, I still feel viable, I still have abilities, I still have potential, you need that mindset to prepare to move forward. But then the next step isn't actually doing it. Now, in other things outside of that and outside of work, our real problem is, it can be a mental setback, but others will come out to say, I can't afford it. Or I don't know anyone else that is interested in doing this with me, or going into, similar adventures or similar types of events. I just don't have that. These people don't exist. And like with me, a lot of my friends have deceased, a lot of my military friends. So again, what are the real problems that some people say, and we actually hear, right, is that when we're looking at ourselves, we're looking at what we personally have. I can't afford it. I don't know anyone interested in the same opportunity, and nobody in my family wants to do that. So let's break down the lies behind the excuses. When they say I can't afford it, the truth is they haven't defined a cheaper version, or they have a mindset shift that looks at what's the lowest cost version of the life I want. I want to be a world traveler. Well, the lowest cost version would be to just, instead of like a world traveler, you travel the United States, all 50 states, right? Just stick within CONUS. But then others say, I don't know anyone interested in the same opportunity. You know what the truth is? They're waiting to be invited to travel CONUS instead of initiating. You'd be surprised how many people have the same mindsets. You find them on Instagram, Facebook, Meetup, there's all kinds of platforms. But the social tie-in says that social engagement improves health outcomes. Because nobody's come to pick you up. You're not an Uber. And then finally, nobody in my family wants to do that. The truth is, they asked once or never. And when we think about it, you may not have anybody in your family interested in riding around for hours, but your family is not always blood. Look at your work family. Look at your hangout community. Because communities are built. They're not found. So you have to do that. So in thinking about this, how do we take that first step towards success in under 6 movements? Well, first, you have to interrupt the identity. And the identity is yourself, not others. You and I are not too old. You and I are not too late. And you and I are not that type of person. What we are is under practice and yet interested in a moving direction towards a new position. The second step, after we identified and interrupt that identity, is to shrink the move. Brain change requires repetition, not intensity. You got to think about that old adage. I think I can, 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 I think I can. If you think that and you repeat it, now you're saying, I know I can, I know I can, I know I can. So it's repetition, not intensity. So start stupid small. Take a 10-minute walk. One call to a person or friend, not a text, you lazy fuck, and one meetup. What this does is if you can walk 10 minutes consistently and repetitively, pretty soon, like I did in physical therapy, it changed to 20 and 30. I was hurting. I was delayed by my physical issues, but I had that mindset going from I think I can for 10 minutes to once I hit that 10 to 12 minutes, I know I can. So you built up that positivity and that mindset. So when we think about this, how science can tie this in. According to Harvard Health, consistent engagement drives neuroplastic change. So think about neuroplastic change. I went from thinking or saying I think I can to I know I can, and now I am doing 10 minutes, 20 minutes a day. Okay, so that's 2. Let's look at the third. Borrow the momentum. And that sounds strange to some people, right? So let's say you're on Facebook and you're looking at community events. You'll see where some say like 20 are interested, 3 are going. Well, if you're not sure you want to go, join before that time comes up. Show up before the confidence, right? Say, hey, I'm interested. Like I was reading something to Rhonda earlier about a canning college. She knows how to can. But where I'm not, experienced in that, I thought, well, this would be interesting. And then I saw a Stop the Bleed class, and I said, you know what? I'm going to go to that. Because where I'm a Red Cross trainer, former medic, site safety and stuff like that, I know how to do blood stop. I've done it before. I've had to treat trauma. But that's aged information. Now they have a new class. So I joined up before I was ready and committed to see what the structure was. And I'm confident that I'm going to learn from this. So that's the third movement. The third movement is to borrow the momentum. The fourth is to build the environment, not the willpower. So when you think about building an environment, right now is a great time for people to start their gardens. So how do they build the environment? People stay with positive aging beliefs. They stay active, they stay social, they stay engaged. So a garden is the same way. To stay active, I'm going to cultivate my soil, or I'm going to get my planters ready. I stay social by checking with others. Hey, I'm growing onions. You're going to grow tomatoes. My brother's growing this. And we help each other. We're staying engaged with that as well, right? Now we have physical movement. We're growing stuff that we can eat, and it's sustainable through the seeds. And so we're staying active. So now that we've grown this stuff, we go back to, like I said, with that discussion with Rhonda. We look for group settings. Well, guess what? Now you and I are going to that canning college. So once we have this, I can take the pickles. We can make the pickled onions. So much to it. So when we're talking about build the environment, not just the willpower, once that starts growing, the willpower's there. I got to water it. I've got to weed it because I want to eat this in the future, right? I'm going to take care of it. So you just don't change your mindset. You change the room, right? I'm going to maintain that. And the fifth and last suggestion is to replace comparison with direction. So when we talk about that, resentment equals stalled movement plus watching others move forward. You don't hate them. You just hate the idea that you didn't start and get on that same path. You're mad because Jimmy's got a boat, Johnny's got a Jeep, and you like to go to the mountains, you like to fish. Well, get with them. Offer to buy them fuel. Replace comparison with direction. Say, hey, I'll get $20 worth of gas. Let's go out here and fish. Or you tell the other, hey, I'll pay for fuel. Let's go to the mountains. I'll bring sandwiches and stuff, right? You have to do something to get something. Take the first step, bring a gas can, say, here's a map of all the best fishing holes. Let's go. So when we think about this, a big part of it is called the standing here syndrome. So let's look at this in like a medical standpoint. What are some of the symptoms that were found? Well, a person with standing here syndrome will talk about the past more than the future. They'll say, I did this and I did that, or we did this and we did that. Now, we can continue to do this. Let's go try it even further. Alan did 10 minutes. Let's see if he wants to do a 5K or a 12K in the future. All right? Reflect on what you did previously and keep that mindset so you can do it in the future. Keep going forward. Another symptom is that that person will critique others more than acting themselves. Well, look at how he's running. Look at how he's hoeing. Look at how he's pulling the weeds and doing all this. And we judge others instead of going up and saying, here, this is a better way, or I found this to be beneficial when you're doing this kind of task. It's ridiculous. If you see something, say something. But then others wait for ideal conditions. It could be weather. They could say, well, I'm going to wait until school's in or school is out because of traffic. Well, I'm going to wait, until 1700, which is 5 p.m., because, by then all the school bus. You're waiting for the ideal conditions instead of the ideal result. And then lastly, they tend to use money, time, or people as their shields. Well, what's holding me up is I'm 50 cents short, it's an hour past my bedtime, or my wife really needs me to sit here and do the dogs. No, fuck that. I got Zach and Wigglebutts taking care of the dogs. I'm going to hook Zach up for doing that, but I'm not going to use that as an excuse. And we do it all the time. I can't go because I can't take a dog. I can't go because my goldfish gets lonely if I'm not playing Offspring or Bach. or a Tchaikovsky at the end of the day. So what does our diagnosis lead up from those symptoms? You and I may have chronic hesitation with side effects of busyness. We're holding ourselves back, blaming that we have more ability in the past, that somebody else is already doing this. Or, allergies. Pollen, it's crazy. We're waiting for the ideal conditions. I don't want to cough and hack, so I'm going to wait until spring is over, pollen's gone, it's raining to knock it down. And I don't have the time, money, or the friends to help support me. So it's all bullshit. And the only treatment is to actually move our ass, take those small steps that lead up to 10 minutes, 20 minutes, a 5K, the ability to cycle. Do it daily. Remember, repetition is key. And don't negotiate. Your life is non-negotiable. Your goals are non-negotiable. If that's what you want to win the gold medal in fucking knitting or crocheting or pickling or pickleball, shit of that nature, get out and do it. Don't negotiate. Don't say, once I get more time, once the school buses, you get out there and you move your ass. You can't get there standing here. Not physically, not mentally, and not socially. So maybe the question isn't, why haven't things changed? Maybe it's, what step did I avoid today that would have changed everything in a year? Before we go our separate ways, let me leave you with this. What's one thing you've been thinking about doing that you quietly decided you're too late for? I was worried when I was putting out those publications like The Blind Side of Safety or helping people understand workman's comp, things like that. I'm not got a college degree, so maybe I'm only going to attract people with high school diplomas. People with higher level thinking aren't going to enjoy it. And let me tell you, I was wrong. It got out, and when I sent it out for pre-publication review, the reviews and the statements were amazing. And that was what helped push my momentum forward. If my peers who were college educated had 40 years instead of my measly 15, 20 years, and all that, found value in it, somebody else would too. And not just in safety, human resources, superintendents, things of that nature. We all get stuck sometimes. We all get blocked by that gray matter between our ears. But hear me on this. There is never a wrong time to ask for help or take one step forward. I did with the publications. I did with the podcast. And look where I'm at today. This is Alan Woffard, and you've been listening to The Diary of a Bald Man. May your week be filled with new destinations, goals to actually get checked off, and a compass that points you somewhere better than where you were standing today. If you got a question, a comment, or just need to reach out, you can email me at diaryofabaldman1968@gmail.com. And remember, you can't get there standing here. God bless you. Thank you for listening. Look forward to seeing you next week. Now get the fuck out of here and enjoy the rest of your day. God bless.
There ain't no problem big enough that I can't make it worse. Ain't no whiskey of any proof that I cannot outburn. You can say, hey, go to hell, but it done had its turn. Any place, anywhere out there that's been cursed, I've been there first. I showed up when it was a peaceful little town. A couple weeks and then the troubles tracked me down. And by the time the sheriff finally read me out, there were only ashes left across the ground. There ain't no problem big enough that I can't make it worse. Ain't no whiskey of any proof that I cannot outburn. You can say, hey, go to hell, but it done had its turn. Any place, anywhere out there that's been cursed, I've been there first. Across the country in a stolen pickup truck, made it to Bama when the sirens were catching up. Got 32 in pursuit until they crashed. When the tanker flipped and filled the road with gas. I'm the match. There ain't no problem big enough that I there first.
Alan Woffard has produced this podcast for entertainment purposes. Neither this nor any other podcast he produced constitute legal, medical, marital, sexual, or professional advice. The opinions and views presented by Alan are his own and do not reflect the views or opinions of employers, clients, family, Facebook groupies, promotional sponsors, or baby Jesus. Any health information shared or mentioned as an alternative does not create any patient-physician relationship or other professional relationship between the audience and the presenters. No person listening to any podcast from this rocket surgeon should act or refrain from acting based on the content of a podcast without first seeking appropriate professional advice and or counseling, nor shall the information be used to substitute for professional advice and counseling. As stated earlier, this show is for entertainment purposes, not how to lead or change your life. Do what is best for you or what your spouse approves of. Alan Woffard and all guests of the show expressly disclaim all liability relating to any actions taken or not taken based on any and all contents of this site.